This week's assignment was to read chapters 10 and the epilogue from The Shallows by Nicholas Carr. The previous chapters of this book have been about the history of technology and how it's changed through the course of years, decades, centuries. And these chapters continue the same, but they were talking more about current events, like Weizenbaum's invention of ELIZA in 1964. And this invention was nothing I had ever heard of before, but it was really interesting. And it is actually a computer that is programmed to listening to human speech and generated with responses based on the first few words. It gave an example of someone saying that they were unhappy, so it would say, "I am unhappy," and then based on the phrase "I am," there was already a computer-generated response to that. And so it has been actually stated that it could be used as a psychiatrist. In the Journal of Nervous and Mental Disease, there were 3 psychiatrists that suggested that ELIZA be used for psychiatry. This could be a good option for patients that want full objectivity. There's no open for judgment. None of that that could be possible with a human psychiatrist. Hopefully not. But there is its limitations in that it does have a set of programmed responses that it can't go beyond that, but it could be a useful option because of the lack of possibility for judgment. So it praised this invention in the first few pages of the chapter. However, later in the chapter, page 211, it started talking about our ancestors and the use of maps and how this usage of not only maps, but all types of technologies really can change our brain, specifically the hippocampus, the area used for spatial representation. And this happens because with the example of the map, when people in the past were forced to have mental maps and know how to get places, but then with the introduction of a 2D physical map, they no longer needed that mind capacity, really. So they could just look at this paper instead of having to store all this information in their brains. So yes, it is useful to have the map, but as we know from the use of technology, it reduces the necessity for brain capacity. Still using the brain, but in a different way. And then later in the epilogue kind of sums up the whole book and uses an example of a educational testing firm in England called Edexcel. And what this did is it was actually programmed to read student essays and would calculate how much the student would stay on the path or the writing flow, or how much they would differ and fall off that set boundaries for the writing. The problem aroused with this that came with this is that the computer could not decipher. It says, I wondered, would the Excel software discern those rare students who break from the conventions of writing, not because they're incompetent, but because they have a special spark of brilliance. So this was basically saying that, yes, the computer could be used to read the essays and see how much the students fell off the conventions of writing, but the problem was it couldn't say, did they do that because they didn't know what they were doing, or did they do that because they were intelligent and knew exactly what they're doing, but in a different way than the other students, or how the school was teaching them. So this related definitely to the other chapters of the book in that it kind of summed them up, or focused on the same topic as technology and the uses with the brain, but more current events. And also with the how can reading War and Peace on my iPhone, because it is technology and it's talking about how the brain deciphers the use of technology, how it changes with the use of technology, and how we can use technology to our advantage instead of a disadvantage.